The latest Ulster Bank PMI survey caps off 12 months of private sector growth in terms of employment, new orders and business activity. And in many ways we're celebrating the first anniversary of Northern Ireland's private sector recovery as far as the PMI is concerned. If we look at the first 6 months of the year, we actually see that the various economic indicators in terms of job creation, business activity, new orders are growing at faster rates than they were during the previous 6 months, which was the second half of last year. Clearly this highlights that there's strong momentum as we enter the second half of the year. And if we actually look at the start of the first 6 months of 2014, the pace of growth has actually been faster than any of the previous years since the survey began back in 2002. In the latest survey, we're actually seeing that some of the growth has moderated, but it's still, when we look at all the various components, the economy and business conditions are still growing at rapid rates of growth. If we look at a sectoral basis as well, all of our sectors are reporting strong rates of growth. One of the factors, when we look particularly in terms of construction, the construction sector continues to grow at rapid rates, but it's worth remembering what this actually means. This means that Northern Ireland firms are reporting strong rates of growth in terms of output, orders, and are increasing their staffing levels, but this doesn't necessarily indicate that this is occurring within Northern Ireland, as many of our local construction companies now have a huge proportion of their work is now based outside of Northern Ireland, primarily in Great Britain. If we then look at one of the other trends is in terms of export orders, still growing for the 12th month in a row. However, there was a marked slowdown in the month of June, and it'll be interesting to see in the months ahead, is this linked to the ongoing strength of sterling, and particularly relative to the euro. And we look at, in terms of sterling, over the last 12 months or so, is actually appreciated in value by over 10%. This is good for tourists who are going into the likes of the Eurozone on holiday, but it's bad for exporters, where it makes their exports less price competitive than they otherwise would have been. If we look at the outlook going forward, we've had a very strong first half of the year with strong momentum going into the second half of the year. However, we would expect the pace of growth to ease, because as the longer the recovery continues, one would expect the lower the rates of recovery. But as far as businesses are concerned, we still expect to see further growth in new orders, business activity to continue to rise, and firms still to be increasing their staffing levels.